You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. And today we're talking winter bass fishing with a guy who's done a lot of it. Let's just say that. Larry Pugh with us today on the show.
Mississippi Outdoors is sponsored by Entergy Mississippi. Entergy is building a stronger and cleaner grid to power a brighter future and protect our great outdoors for generations to come.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. And today, a friend of the show, longtime friend of the show, former Deputy Director at Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, Larry Pugh. Welcome back, Larry.
Matt, so glad to be here. Always enjoy coming back.
You know, I think, Chip, this is our only three-time guest. Huh? I don't think anybody's been here more than Larry.
Yeah, we ought to get him like a robe or something.
Or a little crown to wear on his head while he's here.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not planned. I guess, we get to talk about fishing. I'm all in.
Well, good. And we know you are, and that's why we called you. We're going to talk about some winter fishing today. But Absolutely. First, I say former deputy director here because since the last time you were here, retirement has taken place in your life. How's that going?
Retirement is wonderful. I highly recommend it for anybody straddling the fence. I was telling someone earlier, my two favorite sayings now are, yes, I'm available, and, I can wait and do that tomorrow.
Yeah. And when you are the full-time employee or the deputy director, there's no such thing as waiting on tomorrow. And,
No.
And you're usually not available.
Right. You're available. Yeah, you're available. You're available 24/7 to whatever this agency needs, 7 days a week. So it was, it was an adjustment. But, Deborah and I, my wife, learned to live with each other again. And it's been nice. I get to fish during the week, not the weekends. Yeah. And I've, continued my other areas of interest, my hobbies. Get to do a lot of things around the yard now that I've always wanted to do, and I enjoy cooking now. And so far, it's just been really good.
Well, and you mentioned, you and your wife Deborah learning to live together again because, a lot of people don't know that you live in Tupelo and always did.
Always
in
did.
all those years of working here.
Yes, 13 years, 3 to 4 days a week. I was in Jackson. And people, you'd be surprised how many people from Tupelo thought I was making that drive each day, commuting. Yeah. Well, no, I actually stayed down here. Had a rental place I rented, and for 13 years, I worked for this agency and lived in Jackson. And look, I would do the same thing again. I had goals and aspirations when my career started. And I was able to meet those and even exceed those at the latter part of my career, and hopefully made some differences. But I could not have done that staying in Tupelo.
Yeah. And
my wife's from that area. We raised our kids in Tupelo. It's home. So the thought of relocating, nothing against Hinds County or Madison County, but that was never discussed. And so we made it through, and because of those sacrifices that Deborah and I made, those 13 years, I was able to retire at 59 years old. So,
well, maybe our next interview ought to be Deborah, and we can ask her how retirement's going.
Let's not do that.
All right, but let's talk about fishing.
Yeah.
Wintertime, cold weather, that's not always synonymous with the ideal idea of fishing that we talk about. But in our state, there's so many fishing opportunities.
Sure.
And there's so many people that are catching fish and catching big fish and lots of fish in the coldest time of the year. So from a bass fishing standpoint, what's the best place maybe to start the conversation about cold weather bass fishing in Mississippi?
Okay. I think the first thing we need to talk about is what's your definition of cold weather? Because the air temperature can be cold. As 2 weeks ago, it was cold, but I was still dealing with water temps in the high 50s. That's not cold water. Right, 60-degree water temp is not winter bass fishing. So as the air temperature continues to remain cold, the water temps will start coming down. And now we're starting to see water temperatures in the upper 40s. Now we're getting into some winter fishing.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for is that water temp, because you start seeing those fish really relate to baitfish. You're starting to see those fish not roam as much, more predictable in areas that they should be, creek channels, ditches, a little deeper water, the kind of fishing I like to do. And that's really going to ramp up here now. And we're doing this, third week of December. That's going to ramp up now to the 1st of February.
Okay.
So the next 2 months will be some pretty predictable fishing. Once you find the fish, you should be able to stay with them the next 2 months.
So the water temperature drop happens after the air temperature rise,
Oh,
like
yeah,
it's later.
Yeah.
All right. And you're talking about the deeper water patterns. Are they relating to those channels and those ledges and things because they want to be there, or that's where the bait fish are? Like, is the food source, the bait fish, take them to those areas? Which is it?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah,
it could be either. I
Okay.
mean, they want to be there, but why do they want to be there? Because the bait fish are there.
Okay.
Your warmer water is usually your deepest water, except for brief periods of these 70-degree days we get. They'll make some movement into the shallows. But that's typically where your bait fish are going to be found. And that's the key to winter fishing, in my opinion. And I've been doing it a long time and had a very good mentor that you and I both know.
Yeah.
And is find the bait fish. And that could be shad. That could be in some state lakes. It could be bluegill.
Bluegill, yeah.
Red ear. So you find a bait, you're going to find the bass. And for me, over the last 25, 30 years, it's just been easier because the fish are more predictable. And used to be that you didn't have as much competition with other boats. Now that's changed for some reason in the last couple of years, but I still enjoy fishing this time of year.
The advent of the modern electronics, live view, live scope.
Yes.
I mean, natural thought is that plays a huge role in your success, that deep, warmer water when it's getting cold.
Sure. And, and I think, well, I don't think, I know that's got something to do with the number of boats that we see fishing now with the advent of live scope and forward facing. Finding bait fish with your side scan is easy now. And once you find the bait, you can use your live scope or forward facing sonar to actually see what's there or their bite. And you can see the fish, when they're actively feeding or if they're underneath the shad. You can see them live swimming. And, the anglers today, especially the high school, the college anglers, they've become so good with their electronics. And that's a lot of the boats now that I see, particularly in my part of the state, in the northeast part of the state. A lot of the boats I see are a lot of your younger anglers that have gotten so good with it.
Is that because the younger kids can handle that cold temperatures, better, or is it? Or what is it?
We call them the video game generations, and they, because live scope's almost like a video game, and I was talking with a guy about this the other day. He said, "I don't want to go; it's too cold," and I'm like, the clothing that we have now in the last 10 years has come so far to what we had 25 years ago in terms of how we stay warm. I've got a battery heated down jacket that it's got to be really cold for me to have that on. The clothes we have keep you warm now, gloves. So cold, getting out there and being cold is not an excuse because you're not going to be cold.
And the clothes are affordable now too. Like, used to, if you really want some heavy duty like ski gear or something, you're going to shell out like what, $100, $200?
Oh yeah,
you can get an REI jacket for like $40.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
see, and that's one part of it too. I hadn't thought of is so not only the advancement in the electronics where. Okay, it's a bitter cold day, but I can maximize the time. And if I've got hope I'm going to catch a fish, if I'm actually catching fish, I'm not as cold.
Oh, no doubt.
No
doubt.
Because you're enjoying it. I hadn't thought about the fact that so clothing and the things that you have and it's so affordable now. It
socks,
is so much better.
Footwear. The wind will be the only thing that would if given a choice, would keep me from fishing. A north wind at 10 to 20 during the winter, I'm usually not going to go, especially now. Because you know what? I can do that tomorrow. I can go another day. And another thing is, particularly with bass, is come January, all over the state, well, probably December in South Mississippi, you're going to start seeing some pre-spawn, and not necessarily a move to the bank, but feeding up. The days are getting longer, and so you're going to see. Oh yeah. Yeah, once we hit that winter solstice and make that switch, the days are starting to get longer. Those fish in January and February are generally going to be the biggest that they're going to be, those big females. So the opportunity for a double-digit fish, which is, what I'm interested in. I like to catch a lot of fish too, but I also like to go sometimes, and there's a few lakes we have that opportunity where I can catch a double-digit fish, and that's pretty special.
Yeah.
And January, February is going to be the month to do that.
Well, and you got to stay in the gym too, because you want to be able to hold that 13 pounder with one hand
and hold it out
while you do the selfie with the other, right? So you got to stay in shape. You're catching big fish like Larry.
Yeah, right. I've been fortunate, but again, we have some really good fisheries within an hour of Tupelo where you have that opportunity to catch a 10 plus. Yeah. And so I've got some lakes I can go to that I know I'm going to catch numbers during the winter. I was able to go Saturday and I caught 14. Now, I mean, go catch 50. I mean, let's not get out of hand.
Yeah.
But a bass's metabolism doesn't shut down during the winter. They still have to feed. Now, they may not feed as frequently, but they will still feed. And a gentleman that we both know taught me years ago, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were fishing a lake outside of Tupelo at a state park, and the surface temp was 42 degrees. Now, Matt, I used to think that was frigid. Yeah. You can't catch fish at 42 degrees. I'll never forget it. We were fishing, and we were throwing deep diving crankbaits. Now, deep diving crankbaits are not traditionally thought of as a winter fishing bait.
Yeah, 42 degree water.
43, and we were catching them on big crankbaits. Now, it didn't last long, but when they were actively feeding, we worked on them pretty good with that big crankbait. Typically, that's not the norm, but especially with the advent, back then we didn't have the Alabama rig. Let me clarify that. So people ask me, what do you throw during the winter? Well, I was out in my shop yesterday retying, and I've probably got 6 rods that stay on my deck from now till March 1st.
Okay.
Obviously an umbrella rig, an Alabama rig, umbrella rig. That's probably the best winter bass bait there is, with the right equipment, because you better have good shoulders.
Right. So I was going to say, it's another reason to stay in the gym.
Yeah.
It'll work on you.
My other rod is going to be a jerkbait, suspending jerkbait. Okay. No secrets there. People throw suspending jerkbaits from now through pre-spawn, but day in, I've seen days where they wouldn't touch that Alabama rig, run from it actually, and will hit a suspending jerkbait that you pause, let it sit still. I love a blade bait or a spoon for those inactive fish down deep. Seems like, if you can get that spoon underneath that school of shad fairly quickly, and a spoon will get down there quick, you can catch them on a spoon. I love a single spin, an underspin, a single swim bait on an underspin. It's almost a finesse presentation, if you think about it, with like a little 3.5-inch swim bait. I filmed a show down at Lake Claude Bennett with Mississippi Outdoors several years ago now. And the gentleman I was fishing with, John Daniel Anderson, was catching schooling fish in December, and it was miserably cold. And he was throwing that little underspin with a little 3.5-inch swim bait, and we mopped them up. Okay. So I love keeping that. Rod? Spinning tackle? No, I'm throwing it on 12-pound fluorocarbon on, medium action bait casting rod. So I'm, certainly going to have that on the deck. And then I'll have a minnow type bait on a spinning rod to use the forward facing technology, when the time comes, when you see a bass and want to throw that minnow with a 1/4 ounce, 3/16 ounce head on it.
Okay. So you've got that, you said, on a spinning rod.
Yeah.
When it's targeting one fish, I can see almost like a crappie type presentation.
Exactly.
For bass fishing. Well, how about that? The Alabama rig.
Okay.
Umbrella rig, as you said. What is it? 6?
5.
5 baits on one.
Or 4. I don't know. 4 or 5.
Multiple.
5. Yeah,
somewhere
5.
in there. One big presentation.
5. Yeah.
Why does that work in the winter? Because, and I'm asking because, I can remember all the way back when I was a kid reading articles in the magazines about how, it's cold and the big fish, they want one great big gulp bite. They can get as much in their belly and do as little work as possible. That doesn't sound like the Alabama rig to me.
I wish I had a good answer. I know we can effectively fish it at different depths because we can put 1/8 ounce heads on it. We can put 1/4 ounce heads on it. If we're fishing deep, we can get it down. I think it's something originally the fish hadn't never seen. Something that mimics with those spinnerbait blades and those swim baits that they'd never seen before. And it was phenomenal, such that some terminal organizations outlawed it even. It looks, like a school of shad. I mean, you got 5 swimmers coming along there, and it's just you're bringing it right in front of some fish, and it's just an easy meal. I don't know, but if you're not throwing it, you're not getting bit. I hate to say that because it's quite a workout fishing that thing, even with the right rod and the right reel and the right line, and it's just it's a workout throwing it.
Yeah, the suspending jerkbait.
Yeah.
So, is there a preference there, or one that works better? One that does sit, or one that falls tail first, or one that slightly falls head first? Does it get that minute or that?
For me, it does not. Now, I throw 2 different type of suspending jerkbaits. I've obviously got a shallower one that'll dive about 4 to 5 feet. If the fish seem to be holding up a little higher in the water column. But sometimes, like my next trip, I'll have a deeper version, a deep suspending jerkbait. It's got a longer lip on it, and it's going to get down there now. Jerkbaits now, you don't even have to weight them like we did 25 years ago. They'll get down to a true 8 feet to 10 feet in some cases with light line. Now, again, I'm throwing mine on 12-pound fluorocarbon, just on a bait caster. I have went down to as light as 8 on a spinning rod and got it down deeper. But again, with the electronics today, I can see what depth the fish are.
Yeah, right.
So that's now again. I'm not saying they're going to bite. I got to make them bite, but that's going to clue me in on what jerkbait I want to throw. If it's sunny, I tend to throw shad color, translucent jerkbaits, depending on water clarity. If it's cloudy with some wind, I'm going to throw something more solid, like a bone or something with some chartreuse, purple back. More colorful that without that sunlight they can see a little better.
Okay.
It's definitely a go-to bait this time of year.
So generally, wintertime bass fishing, these patterns, with the electronics you have now, are you saying it's generally more of a targeting and possibility to catch bigger fish or and less numbers overall? That's kind of what you're looking at.
Right.
Most of
the time. Now, I've had days last winter, between Christmas and New Year's, I had a 50 fish day, and that's not the norm. It really isn't. But this past Saturday, it's a good example. I didn't go early. I got to the lake about 9 o'clock and started working and fishing and trying to find a bait fish. And this particular lake's got a bunch of shad in it. I eventually were able to locate the shad. The wind picked up, and that's a good thing for folks to remember. Whatever direction the wind's been blowing or blowing for several days, the plankton gets blown that direction on that bank in that cove. the shad are not going to be far behind. If the shad are there, the bass are there. So I fished from say 9 to 2, caught 14 bass, had 1 5-pounder, 1 4-pounder. Once I found the shad, and that's the main forage for bass in that particular state lake. So yeah, it was. I would call that a good trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people would.
Well,
does all those years of, working in the agency and in fisheries and having familiarity with the different lakes and the food sources and all, just on a personal level, does that help you? Does that factor into having success for you personally on some of these bodies of water?
Yeah, it's time on the water.
Yeah.
Period. And that time on the water could have been on the deck of an electrofishing boat. That could have been talking to anglers when I was working. Now, I don't know what they would tell me. If
you
it
mean
was
you
true
like
or not.
to talk to anglers?
Oh yeah, I had to in my job. Yeah, it was my job. But time on the water in my boat or friends' boats. And I can certainly remember great days in the winter that were phenomenal. I can certainly remember days that, hey, we struggled. They're not going to bite. It's I akin it to deer hunting too. Some days the deer don't move, and some days the fish just don't bite. And regardless of what bait I put in front of them, and I'm putting it in front of them now with the technology, with the depth finders. I know I'm putting it in front of them. I can see it. They're just not going to hit. I was going to add that other rod I have on the deck is a shaky head.
Okay.
Just the ultimate finesse.
Yeah.
If it gets tough and I can't get a bite, I'll pick that rod up, much to my dismay, and throw that little worm out there, and hopefully you can catch a fish.
Really light line?
Light line, light head, little worm.
Yeah.
I'll throw it around any brush or stumps I see, and generally you can pick up a fish. That's not how I prefer it. I'd rather, throw something moving, but I'm not here to tell you that you're going to go catch a lot of fish or you're going to catch a lot of big fish. But, if you spend time on the water, you'll figure it out and learn where these fish like to hang, and you can have some good trips in the winter.
So cold water, wintertime fishing. Here's a reverse engineer question on it.
Okay.
What are the baits or techniques that are for you and for many others that you talk to that are kind of eliminated? Like that's just not something. Let's just, for those that are curious, let's make a list of some things that are just kind of eliminated as baits and techniques this time of year.
Oh, this time of year. Okay.
Okay. For example, like a frog on top of the
top water. I don't have a top water rod in my boat. Right. I'm not going to be throwing top water. Even and it's surprising, even when the fish come up schooling, and they will come up schooling in the winter, I struggle to catch them on what you would, throw a spook, a popper. I don't catch them on it. I'll throw something else. So I don't have a top water. I'm not going to throw a spinnerbait this time of year.
Okay, why is that?
Just typically a shallow. Anything you think of as shallow, a shallow water gear. Now remember, we're talking about relatively deep lakes in northeast Mississippi. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm not speaking about the Pascagoula River or the Oxbows or Ross Barnett.
Okay,
that's totally different. You may get out on Barnett with a couple of warm days in January and go to whacking them on a jig or a spinnerbait even. It's just, where I fish and I fish on the 10 Tom and Pickwick and Bay Springs and the State Lakes, I just don't have a spinnerbait on and okay. Will not until 1st of February.
Okay.
A chatterbait, that's become one of my favorite baits, but I won't throw it until mid-February.
Yeah.
It's almost like going through the fall, you're throwing shallow crankbaits and chatterbaits and rattle traps. And then I get into that, that water temp finally hits high 40s and I'm swapping it out. I've got those rods on the deck that we talked about, and those other rods, the trap, the chatterbait, are going to be in the box, maybe. They might be on the wall. I don't know. Until we reverse it, water temp starts warming. And I vividly remember you calling me on another program, and I was on the water in March, 1st of March, and I couldn't keep them off a spinnerbait. It was one of the best days I've ever had. So you go from winter and these are the baits that are working for me, till when that water temp turns, the days start getting longer, starts warming up, and we're going to start throwing what you would typically think is pre-spawn, your chatterbait, your rattle trap lipless crankbait, even a jerkbait then too. So I don't know. Again, generalities, generally speaking, it just comes full circle with the baits I'm going to be throwing. But those are, shallow crankbait, I'm not going to be throwing that.
Yeah. In Larry, your mental computer of taking into consideration what's going on and then what that's going to lead to the result of what you decide to throw and where and all that. As I've talked to you over the years, you always start with water temperature. It seems like that's always the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Like that's the first clue when we're adding up the factors that are going to lead you down to finally drawing that red circle. Okay, this depth, this area, this bait. It starts with water temperature.
Oh, no doubt. Day length and water temperature, which, I would argue they're highly correlated anyway. The longer the days, the water temp's going to start to warm. But that's going to give me an idea of what I'm going to be doing, where I'm going to be doing it, what I'm going to be throwing. And it in the fish world, and this could be bass, crappie, catfish, it doesn't matter. That governs everything. A fish's goal in life, his day-to-day activities are to feed, eat, and make more fish. That's all they care about, And so water temp governs when they want to start trying to make more fish.
Yeah.
When they want to spawn. So you've got pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn. After those, you got summer, fall. Fall's feeding up for the winter, so you got a feeding frenzy going on typically. And then as you go into the winter, they still got to feed, but they're gearing up for pre-spawn. So I don't know. I think water temperature pretty much drives everything.
Everything. And I was thinking too as you were talking. Okay, so like for example, as we record in our neck of the woods in North Mississippi, really cold nights. It's getting down in the teens. And then if I look ahead, there's going to be about a week or so around Christmas where we're supposed to have days up in the 70s, 72, 73, that we get that typical warm Christmas,
Yeah.
I wonder what a warm week like that, does for the fishing, like in the middle of our winter stretch of fishing.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it where they get extremely active.
Okay.
You give me 2 days in the 70s, and I'm probably going to be throwing a shallower jerkbait, because they will move a little shallower. And those kinds of temps, because you're talking about probably a 3 to 5 degree warm up, depending on what it is at night.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. And again, my favorite time to fish during a day is going to be from 10 o'clock to 4:30, 5 o'clock, because you're starting to get dark then. But that's when I like to go because your sun's at its highest level.
Yeah.
That's when your water temp's going to be its warmest. And for me, or maybe it's I don't like to get up early in the morning when it's cold. My best fishing trips during the winter, most of my best trips have been in the afternoon when that sun's up.
Yeah. That's interesting. Have you ever been fishing on Christmas Day?
No.
No? No. Family didn't allow that?
Yeah, well, you got to draw the line. You got to draw the line somewhere. And I never fished Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Never hunted Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I was usually around for the kids and the wife.
That's good.
And if she wants to go this year and the weather's nice, I'll be glad to go.
Yeah.
Because hopefully I'd have the lake to myself. Because I don't know, man. It's a lot more people are getting into winter fishing. I can tell you, there were, 5 boats on the water counting me Saturday, and the week before that, 2 weeks before that, there were 4 boats on the water on a Wednesday. I was like, does anybody work anymore?
You retired and thought you were going to get it to yourself on
Yeah.
Wednesday. And
I can remember, my favorite day to fish was opening day of deer season when I didn't have to work.
Yeah.
And because I thought more people would be in the woods, but that don't seem to be the case now for some reason, Matt.
Yeah.
Especially up there where we have so many choices. There's a lot of people that fish our state lakes and park lakes, and that's fine. But
Well, you were talking about the different fisheries. Okay, North Mississippi. One example on one end of the spectrum of deep clear. You look at Bay Springs. Mm-hmm. It's sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum from a Ross Barnett or a place like that. But in, again, cold weather, it's getting down in the 20s at night in Jackson. We have a stretch here, and so a place like the rest, shallow water, not deep, not clear. What about bass fishing at a place like that during the middle of the winter?
I think that's where it could be a couple of warm days make a huge difference because off-colored, turbid, I'm not going to call it muddy, warms a lot quicker, will warm up a lot quicker. So you get a couple of days down here on Barnett, and I've had the opportunity to fish with a lot of good anglers on Barnett. February would be some of the best fishing you'd ever see for tournaments because they'd start fishing tournaments. In January, I'm sure if there's some warm days, you're talking about more traditional jig, spinnerbait, something with the water's got a lot of color to it, big plastics that may not be something that we would use on those clear lakes up north.
Yeah. It's also interesting. You've noted it a couple of times about what appears to be more people, fishing during this time of year, which is typically thought of as a little harder to do. It's harder to catch them. It's just harder to put up with that cold weather. But you're seeing more people out there. But I wonder if that's, as much as anything, just an overall indicator of, bass fishing as a sport, if it's continuing to grow where we are and become more popular. It's always been popular, but
sure. You're seeing a lot of college anglers, and certainly the numbers of college anglers are increasing. There's scholarships now to go fish in college, so we see a lot of that in our area of the state. Statewide, I don't know what these other water bodies are, what the numbers are. We're just so fortunate we have so many different ones where we're at. In the northeast part of the state, and I think that's what makes fishing so attractive. And the fishing's good. We've got 3 lakes you can go catch a double-digit fish at during the winter, and Pickwick where you can go smallmouth fishing. Right. And spotted bass at Bay Springs. I mean, when I love trying to catch a big spot. So I don't know. I wish I had the answer because it would help the agency out trying to figure out how to sell lots more licenses statewide because that's what, obviously funds the agency. But, I know nationally the license sales are slowly trending down, small, but, there is a downward trend, but I don't see it. And I crappie fish on Sardis and Enid, and then, bass fish in the northeast part of the state, and doesn't look like to me they're down, but hey, I'm not the one looking at the numbers anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting too to kind of pull from your experience over the years. Have you over the years had a chance to do that winter fishing on that shallow lake or like it's a cold day on Barnett? Mm-hmm. You've had those experiences before?
Oh, man, yeah. Remember, I said that, and I count the 10 Tom, the lower part, as something like your Barnett, your Aberdeen, your Columbus, and they're not as guaranteed, and I hate to say guaranteed, but, you can have that occasional day that you're like, just wow.
Yeah.
That day in late December on Aberdeen where you had a couple of warm days and I go into a slough and all of a sudden they're just tearing the paint off of blades off a spinnerbait. I've had those days or, fishing around any kind of vegetation on Columbus. I've had those days where the fish, you get a couple of warm days, that water warms up, you can get after it and have those good days. And Barnett, I'm sure, is the same way.
Yeah.
I just don't think day in and day out it's as repeatable as some of those lakes that are deeper, clearer, that I fish around Tupelo.
Largemouth, smallmouth spot
Mm-hmm.
at a place like Pickwick
Mm-hmm.
are one of those species more catchable than the others?
Based on my experience, spotted bass are more aggressive.
Okay.
Generally year round. But for some reason, and I think it goes back to smallmouth and spots, are river stream oriented fish. That's how they evolved. And you put them in a reservoir, they still have those characteristics. And I think, those are certainly easier to catch. When I think back about Bay Springs in particular, if we had a great winter day, if we were fishing in the winter, cold, miserable, we were catching spotted bass more often than not.
Mm.
And I just think they're easier to catch during the winter.
Right.
And you can target them. I mean, you're certainly like Bay Springs can target them. Smallmouth, hard to say, but yeah, I would say so more. So I would say so far more than largemouth for the same reason for spots. Current, you get current up at Pickwick, or fish below the dam where you've got current. You're generally, going to be targeting smallmouth.
Yeah, really cool.
Or Sauger. Don't forget about Sauger.
Oh.
I know that's your favorite.
Look, it is. Just not when it's 25 degrees and ice on the eyelets of my rod with Ed Houston, who I learned that day Ed's just tougher than me.
We were talking the other day about that.
I took 2 hours of that Sauger fishing in that 20-something degree weather, and we were catching them.
You were not dressed appropriately.
Well, I can only take 2 hours of it. And Chip, the story is I told our friend Ed Houston, I said, Ed, I've had all I can take. Take me over there. I'm getting in the truck. You stay and fish as long as you want to. I don't want to interrupt your day, but I'm going to warm up.
Yeah.
And he took me to his truck, and I cranked it and turned his heater on and was warming up and fell asleep in the cab of his truck. And my phone rang, and I answered it. And Ed said, hey, don't run my gas out. I said, you don't worry about your gas. I'll put some more in it.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
But Ed, he was tougher than I was.
Well, all joking aside, we do enjoy Sauger fishing in the winter.
Oh, man.
That's just another opportunity in our area of the state that a lot of people don't know about.
I don't know about that. What is Sauger fishing?
It's in the same family as walleye.
It looks kind of like a little walleye.
Yeah.
And the best.
Oh, it's by far my favorite fish.
The best
people say crappie are good. They hadn't tried Sauger.
It's the best fish you can eat.
Are they everywhere?
No. They're native to the Tennessee River, the Mississippi River. Occasionally you'll see one, hear about one being caught in some of the smaller rivers, but that's either going to be, tributaries of the Mississippi or the Tennessee.
Yeah.
But we're fishing actually below Pickwick for Sauger during the winter. And the reason why is they start making an upstream migration to spawn. They spawn early. And when I say early, January, February, I'd say February. Late February, but they'll start doing an upstream migration. Well, I always joke, they start migrating up the Tennessee River and they hit their head on the dam.
And they have to stop.
And they stop and they congregate.
Yeah.
And, it's a very economically important fishery for those folks up there. Live bait, jigs, breakfast, gas.
Yeah.
It's a real, it's not a, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's not a strong fighting fish.
No.
Not at all. I always said if they didn't taste so good, nobody fished for them. But it's a good diversion in the winter.
Yeah.
If the bass fishing's just, because they can get so cold, you can have shad dolls. Now, 39-degree surface temp, threadfin don't do well.
Don't do too well.
You'll start seeing them die. And you really literally will start seeing them struggling in the water column, float to the surface. Birds will show up from everywhere, that eat fish and start eating these shad dots. Now, once that happens, it can get really tough because it's hard. I don't care if you're throwing an Alabama rig, a minnow, when you're competing with dead and dying shad in the water column.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to choose the easy
They're going
target.
to choose the real thing more often than not. So it can get too cold.
It can. And I think it was too cold that day to eat.
Yeah.
But he didn't think so. We got to take Chip's Sauger fishing one of these days. So
let him get it. I just like to take chip fishing in general.
We're going to do it.
I'll take you up on it.
We're going to do it.
Come north. Go north, young man.
Go north. And if you go north and get out on the water, you just might run into Larry Pugh.
You might. During the winter is a good chance. Spring, good chance.
Good
Not during the summer. I'm gonna stick to golf during the summer.
Attaboy. Hey, it's great to see you. Thanks
Always,
for coming
Matt.
back.
Anytime.
He is Larry Pugh, former Deputy Director at the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you outdoors.